Go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. Season 4, Episode 3 of Libertarian Lowdown here on MBRR Media. So, very excited for this show tonight, but while we're at it, we're just going to go ahead and get the ancillary things out of the way. Thanks for tuning in. I'm TC, host, founder, and originator, craft services, catering, set designer, CEO, CFO. I'm really none of those things, actually. But, well, I am the host, founder, and originator. But, yeah, this is the platform where we talk about liberty and justice and government accountability and pretty much you name it. And I think you guys are going to be in for a treat tonight because I do, for Libertarian Lowdown, I do try to talk to as many libertarians as possible that are in that think local, act local mindset. And you guys know my channel members are actually called act localist. And we have different levels of act localist. And it's meant to compel people to get out of their comfort zones and just not talk about being tired and fed up with how government does things, but to actually take into consideration that nothing changes until you go out and make those changes. Those changes can happen, but you have to be the impetus. Because if you're going to sit around and wait for government, wait for the state, wait for rulers, if you will, if you're going to wait for them to make the changes, you're going to be waiting a very long time. Because as we see, outside of a very small handful at that, of people who are elected or even appointed into positions of being public servants, there's a very small amount that are actually activists in making changes. People like, the Thomas Masseys of the world. And you see how the Thomas Masseys of the world get treated by the people who should be on their side. So you take a Thomas Massey, and a lot of people will say that he's more MAGA than even MAGA. Well, MAGA's turning on it. And quite frankly, we need a lot more Thomas Masseys in the world, but we need them at the city state level or the county state level. And those things are incredibly important. And that's why my channel members are called Act Localists. I'm hoping that not only will they support the show, and so if you'd like to do that, there's a join button down there. But not only do I hope they support the show, but that they'll take a page from the Act Local, Think Local playbook that I talk about here so much, and actually go out and do something with it. And I know not everybody is capable, physically. Sometimes people just can't. There are other hindrances and roadblocks in the way, but I do hope that people will take that into consideration. If you are an Act Localist, thank you so much for that. If you are in at the show producer level, like the Angry Vet or IMAP from over on Subscribestar, or my Anonymous, who has done a lot by way of support of the show, thank you so much for that. If you are just a channel member or a subscriber, thank you for doing that. If you're a regular watcher, even hate watchers. In fact, hate watchers, you really need to be here. This is very, very important for you. And because if you sit around and listen long enough, sooner or later, you're going to pick up on something that really matters. But since we're live, I'm going to bring in my guest. We talked about how long we want to be on, and we're going to shoot for an hour. If you're here on Friday night, you should know I'm very exhausted after the week that I had, and I already did a 2.5 hour stream already today. So that was over on Vet Nation. And if you haven't subscribed to Vet Nation for Vet Nation Live, you need to do that. You definitely need to check out Vet Nation and Vet Nation Live. We talk about issues that are near and dear to the veterans' lives. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring in a highly acclaimed by the Libertarian Party of Minnesota, highly acclaimed individual. He has been described as the best activist when it comes to gathering signatures. But we're also going to talk about something else he's accomplished. So without any more ado, Brian, thanks so much for making yourself available. I know we've talked about this for a few weeks, and then things got in the way, and I let you go ahead and get the most painful part of it out of the way, and I'll let you sit down and talk to TJ for an hour, which, God bless TJ, good friend, but I don't know how you talk to that guy for an hour because we all know he's a Fed.
We're both Navy guys.
Oh, you're not still a Fed though, are you?
Not anymore. So
Fed. Everybody, and I hope everybody tells TJ I said that. So introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, and actually tell us too, not just who you are and where you live, because we'll get to the where you live part and what you do there. But tell us about where you started since you were a Navy guy. Have you always been, libertarian minded? Did you conservative? Were you more to the left? Whatever. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I think I'm a 6th generation Minnesotan. So family's been here since I think like 1880. But yeah, I love the state. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm going to try to make it better. But I kind of grew up in Shakopee, which a lot of people might know, Canterbury and Mystics there. Moved there in 95 when it was about 10,000 people. And I left for the Navy in about 2009. And I did all the Navy stuff. It was great. I went to Norfolk and Hawaii, and I was ready to get out and start a family. When I came to move back, Shakopee, since the 90s, was always kind of that big grow kind of town. And they were 50,000. I think they're over 50,000 today. They would double like every census every 10 years. So that was
Shakopee has definitely come a long way since before, since before Valley Fair was a thing.
Yeah,
and that's been there for a long time. So
yeah, it was, and they put that Bloomington Ferry Bridge in. That was kind of the explosion, and that city was really into the tax abatements and subsidies. But yeah, it was just too big for me. So I decided to go south. Went to New Prague, just south of Shakopee. And I liked it because there's no major road going through there, no 169 or 35. So I figured it would still be healthy and it wouldn't be exploding. But yeah, so I was the IT in the Navy, saw a lot of government waste. I really was a Republican.
Well, and at the risk of picking on you Navy guys, I mean, isn't the Navy just all about government waste? I mean, it's kind of
yeah, use it or lose it. I remember getting told we got a budget, we got to spend it at the end of the year, and we're ITs. Well, let's go buy a brand new Craftsman toolbox because I don't know.
It's very specific. That was very specific, Brian. A Craftsman toolbox. You couldn't just throw.
I remember. I remember buying a giant Craftsman toolbox for our ship that we promptly put together. And then we didn't realize that you had to lock it because when the ship turned, all the drawers flew open and all the tools fell out. So
I like what I'm trying to picture a ship that when it turns so hard and so fast that all the tools fly out. I mean,
ironically, it was on a carrier. It was the one of the.
How do you turn that hard in a carrier that the drawers fly open?
Yeah,
it sounds like a bad construction to me.
So yeah, I was on the George H.W. Bush of all carriers.
So you're in the Navy. So you're I'm assuming you're mid-30s.
No, right now I'm 35.
Yes, I couldn't have been any more dead on. So, um, so you're mid 30s now. How old were you when you enlisted?
I was 18. I left 18 and served my whole time. I served under Obama. I did almost 8 years. So 2009, I early 2009 it changed to Obama and served the whole time under him. So very, very small pay increases, about 1% per year. But yeah, so that was fun. But I got out, came back to Minnesota. I still was really not more libertarian minded. I still was, John McCain, Mitt Romney, that was, yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, I know it's funny because everybody has that response when you talk to them. They're like, I was all in. TJ tells
Yeah.
the same story,
Yeah.
So did you find yourself situationally like conservative, like rural Minnesota? I must be conservative. I must be, a Reaganite or whatever it is, or
No,
or was it
I don't.
something you actually adhered to? Like, I'm here. That's me. That's who I am.
I don't know. Maybe it was Shakopee, and I don't think people were very
I
political.
don't think anybody would associate Shakopee with that anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, I
For
guess
those who
I
don't
was.
know, Shakopee is actually a town in Minnesota. It's part of the Twin Cities now, for all intents and purposes. It's a well-absorbed suburb. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But it's also not only home to the Valley Fair, but if they ever get it going again, it is a very fun Renaissance festival. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so these were values you kind of embraced then, or
I wasn't super into it. Maybe maybe it was the Navy kind of got me more into it, but I wasn't very political. More than maybe a little more than the average person. But then I got out in about 2017, and I was talking to some of my friends, and I was telling them about like, well, I kind of view this, but as far as like people, let them be, and a little more democratic kind of stances on those things, and they're like, yeah, you're a libertarian. And it's kind of a weird thing. My first kind of podcast that I started listening to was Peter Schiff, and I just got really into economics.
Really?
Yeah, and I just
that's a strange. That is the first time anybody's ever said I really got into libertarianism because of Peter Schiff's podcast.
Yeah, well, I think it was economics. I really liked economics. It was less of the political stuff and more of like Austrian economics. And like 2017, like I started listening to his podcast, and I don't know if I've ever missed any. Even today, I still not as much, but still listen to him. And then I've expanded, I think, from him. I kind of got into the Dave Smith. Yeah. I love all the money stuff, so I'm a numbers guy, but
well, I'm not good with money. That would be a lie. I'm an economics guy, but do not ask me to do math. I am not a mathematics. I'm not. Arithmetic and TC do not get along at all.
Macro stuff, right?
Yeah, I will talk economics with people, and even and I'm nowhere near where most people are. My libertarian leanings are more about culture and society, but I now understand the link between culture, society, and the economics, which is why I've landed in the Austrian camp. But I don't know if that made sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But so your story is a little different because you had people saying, "Oh yeah, you're a libertarian," but you were drawn even deeper into libertarian philosophy and practices by the economic side, which is kind of reverse for most people. Most people don't, their introduction to libertarian philosophy is not the creature from Jekyll Island. It's like, they're like, oh, I'm a libertarian. Let me study the cultural and social aspects of this. tell me more about this creature from Jekyll Island.
I have to comment. I read my kid the Tuttle Twins Creature from Jekyll Island like 2 nights ago.
You are fully on board. You are
Yeah.
you just like how old are the kids? 2?
So we had to do a slight tangent. My kid went to the Capitol last week for YMCA, and before he went, I'm like, okay, Brad, there's 2 things you got to know. 1, this is where all the money goes that they steal from us, and 2, everyone that works there is a liar. And he came back with how he started arguing with the tour guide. So,
Oh, that's awesome. How old is he?
9.
9. Yes, your 9-year-old's taking on the tour guide. Oh, hey, tour guide, how's it feel being a welfare recipient? No.
So, but it personally, why I got a wife and three boys, so 9, 6, and 3. So, and it's it's a struggle. So I understand the economics of some people. I don't know how they're affording, to live today with the cost of daycare and food and, all that inflation stuff. And I try to educate them on inflation, which it's not prices. It's, the increase in the supply of money. And then that causes the increase in prices. But sometimes you try to like lay the blame more where it belongs and not necessarily on the politicians, but on the Fed. But, they're
yeah. At this point, are they any different?
Yeah, it's the bar. The Fed is the bartender serving the drinks, and our government is drunk.
Yes, very true. Very, and not the good kind of drunk. It's more like the obnoxious drunk.
They're overserved.
Yeah, they're way overserved, and they're the guy that are like, oh, he's going to start a fight. It's going to be so bad. It's like, and then he's going to say, hey, my friend will kick your ass.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to actually invest in as money is there. I'm going to invest in the Tuttle Twins books for my granddaughters and my grandson. My daughter has 3 kids, and I'm trying to debate whether or not I'm going to buy them for Grandma and Grandpa's house, or if I'm going to buy, if I can swing it, buy a set for their house and for our house. And my daughter is aware of who they are. We had never invested in them. We homeschooled from start to finish in our house, and I kept hearing about the Tuttle Twins, and by the time I was at the point where I was ready to spend the money, I was like, nope, they're too old now. But now Grandpa can be crafty.
Yeah.
You brought up how people live today with economics and whatnot. And I think this is, I would talk about this a little bit because I think it's a really good tie-in to what you've been doing. But I keep hearing about how the economy is improving. Our current chief executive of the corporation that is the United States federal government has been bragging about how egg prices have come down. I haven't noticed because I have illegal backyard chickens. So I'm surprised we haven't heard them sounding off. They've been laying eggs this afternoon, and egg song. I don't know if you ever heard chicken egg song. It is the most annoying thing, and it goes on. They like to tell everybody. But I've heard a lot about egg prices going down and how everything else is going down. But I put gas in. I use Upside. This is not a paid endorsement. I use Upside. And if anybody's interested and you would like a link to, we could help each other out, let me know. But so I watch the fuel prices on a regular basis, and they have not gone down as much as everybody keeps talking about. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I keep hearing, oh, fuel prices are going down. Fuel prices are going down. And they're not. They're really not. There's the Fleet Farm in Rochester, because I'm in Rochester pretty much every day, at least Monday through Friday. The Fleet Farm in Rochester, for the first time, their prices were, with their discount, was $2.99 on just regular unleaded, whatever that is now. What is it, 87 or whatever? It was $2.99. That is not a massive decrease from where we were a year ago. Not by any stretch of the imagination. And have you noticed that? Have you seen much of a decrease in your household budget for fuel and groceries and all that other stuff? Or
we're really trying to budget for our groceries. So I think we used to be able to spend a little bit more on it, and we also got more. So we're having to be a little bit better at that. But for sure, daycare prices every year they go up. They're in like they're supposed to go down usually for as the kids get older, because of a teacher to student ratio or kid ratio. But yeah, it usually stays about the same. And then you go over, my friend at work, he's got a 3-year-old kid in Lakeville. It's $470 a week for his 3-year-old to do daycare. $470 a week. And I mean, that's
at that
like,
point, I don't, isn't it like, why not somebody stay home?
yeah,
I don't mean to
you
be a
gotta look
jerk.
at the
Don't get me wrong. I don't know the situation, but at 470 a week, that's an, like, unless they have a dual income household, which I'm assuming they do if they have daycare.
Yeah.
That's, unless they're making 6 figures or more, like, is that even worth it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's essentially like, do you want to have your wife or husband, whoever stays home, to have like a break in their career? Like maybe they have, if they do have a degree, then you're out of the game for, 4 or 5 years until they're into like a preschool or, so yeah, it's just a choice that every family had. Yeah, I'm
not judging at all, not judging, but we didn't think we could do it. When we chose to have Mrs. TC stay home, we were like, how are we going to live? And we made sound like we did not go on. We went on one vacation when the kids were really, really little for like 3 days. We did not go on a family vacation again until 2020. And my daughter is now 27 years old. So let's let that sink in. 2020, we went on vacation mostly to just rub it in the nose of Minnesota and my employers, who told me we couldn't leave the state. You're not allowed to leave the state. And I'm like, I'm going to South Dakota.
Yeah.
So screw you.
Oh, Black Hills.
And, we went to the Black Hills. That was our only vacation. And that was obviously after the kids were old enough to be, on their own.
Yeah.
So we made some sacrifices. So I get it. It's tough, but, so you're seeing, you're talking to friends and other people, they're seeing increases in things like childcare and the like. But what about, are people coming to you and going, man, for the last 7 months, I've been watching prices come down? Or are people still in the same boat they were in a year or 2 years ago?
Now, you might be able to find 1 or 2 things that they'll like to cherry pick, and they'll cherry pick a timeline or a date or whatever it may be. And like, yeah, there's fluctuations in gas prices and other stuff too. But like overall, like prices are sticky, and wages or some of the other stuff, some things they fluctuate, like gas fluctuates a lot. I did go electric, so I actually don't buy gas anymore. But for my lawnmower,
he's one of those.
Yeah. Well, no, hey, when everyone was dumping their Teslas, that was a great time to buy. So I bought a Tesla right when everyone was dumping them, and the prices tanked on those. So, but otherwise prices they just keep going up, And
doesn't that just also speak to the fickleness of the American political apparatus, where prior to 2024, everybody loved those Teslas because, he was one of the good guys.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now he's not. And then he is. Because now I don't know. It's like, where are we with him right now? Or is he a bad guy, or is he
good or bad? I don't.
Is he good or bad?
I've been a fan of Elon Musk way back, like before the Model S, even when they had the Roadster, like 2010-ish. I've been a fan of just him and going outside the box and doing what other people are just too afraid to do. But that's just me. Now he's a big political tool, but
emphasis on tool.
Well, people are using him to further their agenda. Not that it's his fault, but they use Taylor Swift. They use her as a political tool too. And what she like endorsed Kamala, or it was just very small thing, right? And then everyone just tries to like use her as a political tool
after mocking her for her cookie cutter music for her whole career. And then also at the same time feeling sorry for her because she really got screwed over by the corporations. So I get what you're saying. So you grew into your libertarian ideals. You started off with Peter Schiff and Austrian economics, where again, kind of a strange flip. It's a different way of flipping, but you moved away from and I want people to understand that libertarians are not a uniform bunch. But we do tend to be able to get along with people that are maybe a little further to the left or further to the right than us, because there are a lot of things that we can agree on. And so you can have slightly left-leaning libertarians and slightly right-leaning libertarians, and we may have some inner disputes where we go, you're not really a libertarian. And that's when you know you've arrived as a libertarian, is when another libertarian tells you you're not really a libertarian. But you came out of conservatism into libertarianism through economics, which I think is phenomenal. The interesting aspect is it has now caused you to not just be interested in it from an economics perspective, but mutual friend and contact, Chip Tannigan, has said that you are maybe one of the best activists in the state of Minnesota when it comes to gathering signatures on petitions. In particular, I know, because this is near and dear to the libertarian heart, to get people on a ballot.
Yeah.
He says he's seen you be able to do things that like 10 other libertarians working in tandem cannot do. And so you're going out during campaign season when libertarians are trying to get on the ballot, and you're gathering signatures for people left and right. How did you get started in that, and why are you good at it? Because I could talk to people, but damn, bro.
It's actually because I'm 6'5" and I have long legs. It's all about speed.
And intimidation. Like, you must sign this. I'm bigger than you.
Yeah, no, being a libertarian, you always are the minority, and I also, like, people ask, oh, well, what are you? Well, it's like, well, I mostly align with libertarian, because there's like the libertarian, principles, and it's like, yeah, and some of them are kind of open, and they have, you can be one or the other, or lean left or right, or but like for me, it's just like, I am me. I have my political views, and
right.
They mostly align with Libertarian Party. So that's, and that's what that is. And if the Libertarian Party moves, or if maybe I move, like I used to be more conservative, right? And then I was convinced through just learning to change my views, and I'm always open to that. But right now, like, that's my current views, and that's kind of where I stand. But for petitioning, yeah, I didn't realize how much and how hard that was. But being a minority, a lot of times you got to learn to work with people and learn to understand their views and know that they're not going to agree with you, and where can you find common ground. And I think that's usually why I'm good at talking with people. Now, I don't know why I'm better than other petitioners. My wife says I'm a social butterfly, I guess. But yeah,
so you're gregarious.
We'll get to kind of the local activism I'm doing here, but the petition I just did for this police station in New Prague. Well, I guess should we kind of talk about that and the local stuff I've been doing here in New Prague?
Well, yeah, I think that's a perfect segue to, so you've been out, like, prior to this situation with the New Prague City Council and the New Prague Police Department. If you hear strange knockings on your door while we're talking about this, blink 3 times fast so that we know to send help. You kind of had, and I don't want to say reputation, because whenever somebody says you had a reputation, that's people immediately think, oh, he's one of them. But you kind of had a you were well known in the New Prague area, obviously, because I'm assuming you're doing most of your, signature drives and whatnot in your
Yep.
area. So people kind of knew who you were, um, and so you got involved in local politics, not in the same way that other people think of involvement, but by just showing up and being present and holding your local city council accountable. And you're talking about, I mean, a smallish city, but overall, 8,000 people is basically almost 4 times the size of the town that I live in. And you said, no, we're gonna start showing up to these city council meetings. We're gonna start paying attention. And so how long have you been doing that before you realized what was going on with the bonding measure for the police department?
Yeah. So a lot of people have been focused on the school boards. And they, there's reasons behind that because the school boards do a lot more like policy that, affects your kids, what they see and things like that. So it's a little more
Oh yeah,
personal. So the New Prague School Board, which is a bigger area than the city, much bigger.
sure.
Just budget wise, I think their annual budget's like 50 million compared to the New Prague cities is about 5. And people were really focused on that. And that was there was some heated meetings, a lot of the trans stuff. They changed all the bathroom signs from boys and girls to student. So that, there already was some pressure on that aspect of it. But then I heard one of the candidates was going around and she said, hey, the New Prague School Board is going to be doing a tax abatement. And I was like, oh, why? I know what tax abatements are, and I haven't heard about that. Like Shakopee was doing those in TIF districts, right? Where essentially a business or whatever it may be, an entity doesn't pay taxes, right?
Right.
Now, I'm for not, lower taxes. Yes, I'm for that as long as it's equal and you don't start picking and choosing
Yeah.
who gets
You're not just picking some bigwig business owner to come in and go, hey, you move your business here and we won't make you pay taxes. We'll just push it off on the small guy down the street,
exactly. So, and
which is what a TIF is.
Yeah, and so I've been watching the city council meetings for a while, and it kind of paying attention. They do some stuff I wasn't too in favor of, but it wasn't nothing like extreme or anything. And it seems like there's been some new city people on the staff. Some are old, but it seemed to be going in a little bit new direction here in the last few years. More towards that grow the city, grow, subsidize.
Mm.
So I heard about that and I was like, oh, well, what's the deal with it? Well, it turns out there's some high density housing and they wanted to get money from the state because the state had this money. The state said all the local entities have to do a 2-to-1 match, or I forget what it was. So then the city said, oh, okay, well, we'll say we'll do a tax abatement. How much do you guys need? And I forget how much they were asking for. It was $1 million, I think. So then the city had to do 500,000. Or the project won't happen. That's what they always say. Or we won't build it. Well, then the state ended up declining the application. They didn't get the money, but then the city continued pressing the
They
tax.
move forward.
So, and then they asked the county and the school to chip in. And, just to shorten the story, the county said no. They were not interested in doing any tax abatements. And then the school, they did. And then the city also did. And I got quite a bit of pressure worked up just on Facebook on educating people on what tax abatements are. And they always, the city and the defenders of it keep, oh, we're not giving them any of your tax dollars. Yes, technically you're not giving them the tax dollars. But the way I would explain it is like, what if you gave a tax abatement to every business in town? Every single business had a tax abatement. They don't pay property taxes, right? Well, what do we pay taxes for? Essential or the services that the city provides. So if none of the businesses are going to pay taxes, but the city still provides police or fire or, all these services the city provides, right? Why they tax you, they're still providing them to all those businesses. So, the expenses stay the same, but who pays it? If you're not collecting, your income or, your revenue goes down, it has to be paid by the existing tax base. So now maybe it's a small, it's just one business, one tax abatement that it's not going to drastically affect, but you're talking about a 54 unit housing complex. How much crime is that just on the police force alone? and they're not going to pay taxes for X amount of years. So that's, and I go to the meeting and they had 5 speakers, all 5 from the Chamber of Commerce. And 3 of them didn't even live in
Prearranged. Were they part of the agenda, or were they in the public comments?
It was in the public comments.
Jeez, that's so slimy.
Yeah.
And I want to bring up something too. You're bringing up this high density, and this is not tinfoil hat stuff here, folks. This is a reality, and I'm sure that Brian has heard of this. High density housing is now happening in every community all across the United States, where federal and state and local government are pushing these things, because the goal is high density housing for everyone, because they are moving to, whether you think I'm crazy or not, they are moving to what is referred to as a 15 minute city model.
Yeah.
And high density housing is how they are doing this. And there are examples of that happening already in the world. Oxford, England is doing 15 minute city increment implementation. And if you pay attention to Saudi Arabia, they're building an entire self-contained strip of buildings that are high density, and you will live in a community within that building and never leave it. That's the whole point of all of this. And so when you see towns like New Prague, 8,000, where you couldn't get much more outside of like a really small town like where I live. What does New Prague need high density housing for? There's only one reason for that. And that's why they're looking at them and giving them these TIF districts or these tax abatements. It's to encourage them to build these, to get people to live in them, so that they can get people all crammed into one specific area as much as possible. So there's a reason for all of this.
And actually the Met Council is interesting, because they actually withhold taxes. So normally you pay property tax to the county, and then the county dishes it out to the cities and the schools. But with the Met Council, they actually can mandate certain amounts of housing that the city has to build or has to entice or whatever it may be. And if they don't do that, they can withhold money. And I was talking to Kara Schultz, and she said that Burnsville sued the Met Council, and they lost in court. And the court said, nope, the Met Council can withhold funds. But yeah, the Met Council is Scott County is included, but for whatever reason, they carved out the city limit of New Prague, as we straddle Scott County and LeSueur County. So we just got carved out. So we're not in the Met Council, which is nice. But then there's this thing called Region 9, which is basically a Met Council, but for the Mankato counties. And that includes LeSueur. And everything I see, it does not include the north half of New Prague. So the north side of New Prague is in Scott County, not a part of the Met Council, and not a part of Region 9. So we looked out there.
And that's where the revolution will begin. So you're seeing all of this take place, and you're going, wait a minute, none of this is right. You go and you speak on it, and the response was, throw him out.
I go to speak. They had the 5 out of 5 Chamber of Commerce. They had letters from businesses that were misrepresented, that were letters that supported housing, not supporting tax abatements. And then 3 of the 5 didn't even live in town. So it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but the meeting was packed like none other. And they pushed it through. The city pushed it through. And it was at that point I realized the decision was already made. They already had this plan. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to start paying attention. And it's more than just watching the council meetings after the fact, more than watching them live. I'm going to show up. And that was in September of 2024. And I have showed up to every single council meeting except for one. I was sick. I've been to every single one, and I show up and I look at the agenda beforehand. I've probably maybe half the time I'll speak on different things on it. And I was like, I'm going to eventually just, I'll figure something out. I'm going to try to keep them from growing. Last year, our taxes went up 10%. The city budget went up over 10%. I mean, so then I'm waiting, and they got this big police station they keep bringing it on the agenda. And a lot of them will say, oh, it's been talked about forever. If I try to talk during any item They won't let me. The only time that I can talk is during the public comment,
comments. Yep.
which is for, it says right in there, this is for items not on the agenda. Okay. So if there's an item on the agenda, like the police station, they're not, the mayor then, which then he actually has since resigned and we have a new mayor, both of them, they won't let me or anybody talk during an item unless it's a required public hearing from the state. So
And then it has to be announced, and it has to be open, and then it has to be closed, and
yep.
Yeah.
So they have these public hearings, and I keep an eye out, and I watch for this police station because it was a huge project. So we're talking like the initial estimates were 12 million. So since then, the price, because of like the contract came down a little bit, they had estimates and stuff like that. But if you include the building, the furniture, the development fees, the land, which they never talk about, which they bought years ago, the land cost, it is a $12 million facility for 12 cops.
And that's we're not, people are like, oh, well, your police need a place. I'm like, no, we're not talking about a metro police department. We're not talking about Minneapolis or St. Paul. We're not talking about Rochester. We're not talking about St. Cloud or Duluth. Yeah. We're talking about 8,000 people in what is ostensibly still rural Minnesota. They don't have that, they just don't have that many officers.
Not only do we have not that many officers, there's only 3, I think, that are full-time inside the building. It was 3 and a half or something. Most of the cops are in the cars. They're out driving around. And we were the 11th safest city in the state of Minnesota last year. How did we do it with this old building?
Public safety is totally dependent on a large budgeted building.
Yeah.
Much, it's very much. Yeah.
Well, and they don't realize is like, okay, you know what? We probably could have got better cops, because they always say like, well, we want to get great cops, which is awesome. In fact, coincidentally, where I'm sitting right now, my direct neighbor is a New Prague police officer, and he is great. Like, I have no issues with him. He's a great guy. I think he's one of the great cops. Do some departments have bad cops? Yes, absolutely. I don't, New Prague, there are some that some people don't like. I personally have not had any issues with the New Prague Police Department. It's not about the cops. Like, my current issue is the city spending, and a $12 million facility is way too big. So I just wanted to talk about it. I wanted a chance to speak about it. So what does the city council do? So for the fire station 20 years ago, this is like most cities would do. They have a capital improvement plan, or CIP, that requires a public hearing. People can come and talk, and they can give their opinion on this plan that they have. Then the city waits 17 months for the fire station until they do a bond sale. And then they do the meeting for that, public hearing number 2, where people can talk. Then they have to wait 30 days where the public can do a petition if they don't agree with the way the city voted on that bond sale. So you have 30 days where you need 5% of the votes cast in the previous election. For New Prague, that's 244. That's 5%. So they wait 30 days. And it's for the fire station 20 years ago. They wait 30 days, no petitions filed. So then they go with the bond sale. After they sell the bonds, then they go out for bids, and then they sign a contract. Seems normal, right? Okay, for the police station.
Sealed bids too, right? Sealed bids too, right?
All makes sense. So the police station, what do? So they have a visioning document, and this document every year they update it, and it's the 5-year plan. This is different than the capital improvement plan. They have a 5-year plan of what are we going to do next year. They didn't even have a police station on that plan until December of 24. The last month out of the year, in December 24, they slip in their new police station, because they kept having it on the agenda as like, oh, well, we're going to do a new police station someday, so let's just do the design now. Why not?
That's always the answer. School boards, city councils, county commissions. If we don't get this done now, it's going to be even more expensive when we do get around to doing it, which is their way of saying, oh, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So you might as well not stand in our way now, because it's going to be cheaper now.
Yeah. When you point out that all costs rise in the future, not just that, but also people's home values and their incomes and stuff. Now, I know I don't think it's keeping up to pace, but so they add it to the visioning document in December. Then, and I think it was like February maybe. Well, regardless, the first thing that they do, well, let's go out for bids. We don't even have financing secured, but why not? Let's go out for bids. You know what? Let's sign a contract too while we're at it. And then they miss the public hearing. So they're supposed to have one and they miss it. Now I've been waiting.
They missed it. How the heck can that happen, Brian?
So honest to God, I think that it was an accident. Maybe
come on, man.
Maybe it wasn't, but you know what? Because they missed that meeting, they thought, and maybe it was a risk that they thought no one would notice it, but I did. And once I noticed it, I went to the meeting, and they already had the meeting where they did the capital improvement plan, and then 3 minutes later they did the bond sale. Okay, so mind you, the fire station, it was 17 months apart, 2 public hearings. New Prague's, so they do it the same meeting, 3 minutes apart. They approve both of them with no public hearing. And I was there at that meeting for a different item. But so they do no public hearing. So then a month goes by, they do the bond sales, and they're there to accept the bonds. They've sold all the bonds. Hey, congratulations, we're going to accept them. The item before the bond sale is public comment. And I get up there and I say, hey, you guys illegally sold the bonds. I hold up the newspaper. Here, you guys noticed it. I hold up the meeting minutes and the agenda, no public hearings. You know, and I watched the video, and all of you guys were here. I was here. You all were here. You guys never opened up a public comment. So they're like, oh, geez, you know, what do we do? Like, we want to accept these bonds, but Brian Paulson said it's illegal. So they call the attorney, and what does he say? We can't prove the meeting didn't happen, so accept the bonds, and then if we find out later, then we'll figure it out.
Wait, so the attorney, the legal mind said we can't prove the meeting didn't happen.
Yep, can't prove that the public hearing didn't happen. So let's approve it, and then retroactively we'll figure it out.
What do you mean you can't prove it?
Yeah, even though they were all there, everyone there. You've got
that,
8. I'm
just going to ask because I can already tell. That was the attorney from the League of Minnesota Cities.
No. They, you would think so, but no. He has worked for the League of Minnesota Cities. Actually, last meeting he told us that he used to work at the league. But yeah, no, he's. There you go. I believe he's a private company that we pay.
Contract
so he's not
for
actually on the city payroll.
Contracted city attorney.
Yeah. But yeah, that was his advice. And they approve them. And then the next day they said, you know what, Brian, you were right. We got to restart the whole process. Mind you, I'm bringing this up. They've already signed a contract and they don't have funding. And now I've brought this up, and now people in the public are being aware, and they're like, whoa, what's going on? $12 million, $11 million, like around that dollar amount. So now people are paying attention. And instead of pausing the project, the city pushes forward. Even though, and they're pushing forward with the new hearing and the new, all that, they're doing the process that they have to do for public comment. But now what is public comment for? That's to get, what's the feeling in New Prague? How are people feeling? And instead, they're pushing forward, sign a contract, and they had fences up when the public hearing happened. They already erected fences. They got a dumpster there, and we're in there in the meeting in City Hall saying that we don't want this.
So were people, by your estimation, were people just at that point, they're just mad about the process, or were they going, well, wait a minute, why do we need a $10.8 million building, why do we need a $12 million building? Or were they just like, screw you, city council, if you're going to do this shady this way, then we're going to come at you for doing it that way. What do you think?
It wasn't a spite thing. I think it was they were concerned with, one, the cost. And New Prague does have very high taxes. In last year they increased their budget 10%, right? So they're mad about the actual budget of the city, period, because this police station alone is going to raise it, I think it was 14 to 16% just for the police station. On top of, last year they did 10% with no, that was just normal operating.
So
10%.
this was going to raise the budget, which ultimately means they're going to come at you for taxes and fees on everything else to be able to.
Yeah, I think it's 14 to 16% more increase in the city budget just for that. So people are like, "Whoa, our taxes are already too high," and then just the cost of the building, and then you guys really seem to kind of do this sneaky. And then the last thing was I had all the teachers and the big school supporters because New Prague Schools is going out to do a tax levy. They can't just levy taxes like the city does. They have to have a vote for it. And what's going to happen if the city goes and passes this and it increases our taxes? You think the school is going to have a good chance? People are going to go, you know what? I'd love to support the school, but I just can't. And me personally, if I'm going to get a 14%, 16% tax increase, I'd rather have it go to the schools than for the police station that I don't think is needed, especially that scope.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's one thing we could say a lot about public property and who should be owning property and whatnot, but they're if the building's falling apart and they're living, or not living, but working out of a rundown, World War II era shed somewhere, then yeah, maybe we could talk about purchasing or whatever a new building or building one. But the 10.8 million on top of the money that was already spent just to have the property the way it is, which, by the way, folks, when a city or a county buys property, they don't just buy like this tiny little quarter acre to do something. They always buy a massive amount, which then removes that property from the tax base.
Yep.
Which means everybody else's taxes go up to pay for the property that just got bought.
Hey, let's compare this. Let's compare this to a city. How about Jordan, which is just north of New Prague, kind of a little west of Shakopee there. So Jordan, Minnesota. Let's see. They have, I think they have 13 or 12. They either have the same amount of officers or one or two more, I think. But they have more calls. They have more calls than New Prague, because New Prague is a very safe city. So they have more calls. Oh, and all their calls are more severe, right? They have, I can't remember what they call it, but it's like the tier 1 crimes, the really bad stuff, right? New Prague does not have that stuff, right? Jordan, like they just had a murder. I think they've actually had 2 or 3 murders this year. So how much was their police station in 2017? Now I know we got to adjust for inflation, but let's just look. In 2017, 2.2 million. For a police department that has more calls, more severe calls, and is about the same size as New Prague's. I mean, even if we double it, and then like it has a 12-stall garage, indoor parking for the cop cars, which we don't even have that many. It has an indoor wash bay, which I'm not sure if they'll use, considering that they just go through the automated car wash. I don't think they're going to be hand washing their own cars, but so they have 12 stalls inside. I know for a fact that New Ulm, Minnesota, which is twice the size of New Prague, has 2 stalls. Brown County has 4. And most police departments, they don't park their cop cars inside. They buy them, they have them for 3 years. Half the time they're being driven around, or maybe even full cycle. Like they don't park them a lot, and 3 years later, they're selling them. So they don't need to be parking them inside. But yeah, that's probably one of the most egregious parts of the, the project. But yeah, so
Chris Daniels, I don't know, Chris he says sounds like they're making the fusion center, which, I mean, there's something going on there. I'm not accusing anybody, of nefarious, but there's something going on there. There's no reason. Yeah. There's so much about this stinks, which is why when you say I'll grant them, maybe they did forget the public hearing.
I can't prove it.
Right. But we can,
host,
the views of the host do not necessarily reflect the views of Brian.
That's, when I'm on Facebook, I really, really try to make sure that I have stuff that I can back up my claims, because I know that there is a lot of opposition, and they'll try to throw anything they can at me. So I do have views on some things that I haven't, mentioned on Facebook that I just can't. I can't prove it. I can't prove somebody's intentions. So I just I let it be. I continue with the facts, and I hope that does what it's going to do.
So you got it. You got to them like, oh, you're like, oh, hey, we have to admit, yeah, we screwed up, and people are paying attention, and they're coming in and voicing. What was that meeting like? Where were there a lot of people there for public comments?
I think we had. I'm trying to remember. I want to say it was nine people. I want to say. I think it might have been on my side, and I think maybe five were for the police station.
You're getting side eye from the Back to Blue crowd now. Are they like?
Well, and some of them, I give them credit. They went up and they're like, "Hey, my wife is a police officer, and I support the police station." Well, yeah, that would make sense, But right before that meeting, the mayor resigned because of all this pressure that was happening. And I think I had Channel 5, Channel 9, and Channel 11 all in the room with cameras. So yeah, there was a lot of pressure that they were feeling from what I was doing. And the worst part, I think, is the contract. They kept claiming from the city attorney and the city council, oh, we can't leave the contract. We signed the contract. It is before construction really started, right? They had signed it. They're like, we can't leave it. They could sue us for the entire amount. Yeah, and they could also sue you for $1 billion. But the contract says for work performed. The city can leave if it would like to. They just have to pay for work performed and reasonable expenses, which is not the entire contract. And there's a second clause that they can pause. They could pause construction. Why not pause it until we get this petition figured out, get the public hearing done? Nope. They pushed forward and they did the public, they were breaking ground, they're digging. And I'm telling them
all of this while it's undecided after whether it was intentional or not, because what do we hear all the time, especially from law enforcement? Whether you intended to or not, what you did was illegal.
So they do the correct public hearing, continue construction. And I'm telling them, I'm going to do a petition. I've got 30 days to get 255 signatures. That's 5% of the vote. So what do? I go out and I get some other people to help me collect signatures, and we collect almost 550. Oh, and it wasn't in 30 days. We did it in 6.
Wow.
I had door knocking. 4 out of 5 people would sign the petition. And the 1 out of 5 that wouldn't sign it usually was because they didn't want their name on the list. They didn't, they knew someone that worked there or whatever it may be. But usually that 1 out of 5 wanted to support, but they didn't actually. And then I think there was a Twitter poll for like Midwest Safety that did it. And they were, is the $12 million too expensive for New Prague? And it was like 80% said yes. There was a poll in the New Prague Happenings group that asked the same question. Now, I know that they're not all city residents, but it still gets, a little bit of a poll, right?
It's still people ostensibly in and amongst the community.
Right. Associated with New Prague, that they're on the Facebook page. And that was 75-25, right? And like clearly the community was largely not for this. And the city council, when they had the petition on the agenda, they wouldn't even let me speak to it. And they were speculating that I sold it to people with false pretenses. Because if you think about a normal process, how does the state give a voice to the citizens to stop a big project? They're not going to have a statute that says, hey, you can do a petition for a police station, because then the city will just change after you get your petition and say, oh, we're going to build a safety center, right? They'll just find a way to get around your thing, right? So what's always required? Money. So the state statute, you can do the petition, but it's for the funding. Now, normally, that's really what matters. If you can stop the funding, you can stop the project, right? Well, the New Prague City, they got my petition, and they decided to get around my petition by sending it to the Economic Development Authority, the EDA, which is appointed by the city. And I can't do a petition. So currently, as they're still pressing forward and the walls are all up, the EDA is tentatively going to sell bonds and then rent it to the city. And we have no recourse. Can't do anything. Even though I doubled the petition And clearly, like, people were very against this, but we have no other choice.
There's no recourse at all, none.
Yeah, I could
once
do a petition to remove a council member, 20%. But
Wow.
I think they signed their, they signed their career in that. They use all political will, and
the problem, and I know you've noticed this, just I can tell just from talking to you, is that the public will be outraged for a short period of time, and then the building will be built, and then they'll all show up for the open house, and the free hot dogs and lemonade in the parking lot.
I don't know. People here are not. I don't think they're going to forget this, and it's right off of one of the main strips, right off.
Yeah, but brother, come on, man. People just, it's like it to use the law enforcement thing here in Minnesota. It's like all of the conservatives seem to have forgotten that it was cops that enforced all the COVID lockdowns, and it was cops that enforced the mask mandates for the school districts, and they could hardly be bothered to get mad when cops were arresting and kicking people out of school board meetings in Minnesota. Like, they're just gonna, and this isn't the police headquarters isn't about the performance of the police department staff. Right. I have critiques of the law enforcement career field, but people are just going to go, yeah, but I like the cop. So
my argument to them was like, hey, did you guys realize that now the cops are going to have probably less income? Like, when they ask for a raise, like, it'll be like, no, we can't afford it. Sorry. Like, I would have been better off. Now, I wouldn't have liked it, but I would have been better off. Like, okay, give all the cops a 10% raise. That would have been cheaper. It would have been cheaper for, like our taxes went up 1% or something like that. But, and we probably would have got better cops, because that was their argument, is like, well, we need a nice station to attract good cops. Well,
I've never heard a cop go, I wouldn't work there. They got a crap building. Like, yeah, I've never heard that.
Instead, you pay them more money and have nice cop cars, or, whatever. Like, I guarantee you that they would rather have more money than a nice station that they're not in very often.
My brother works in the most decrepit, broke down police department building I have ever seen in my life, and not once has he ever said, I'm thinking about getting a job somewhere else because this building is just run to crap. He's never said that. I'm like, oh,
and this will put pressure on all the city staff, because now the budget is going to go up a whole bunch. And the mayor claimed to the news, which technically is true, well, the police station technically won't make it go up by 13 or 14, 15% or whatever it may be. Technically it won't, because we could make cuts in other areas to make it go up only 7%. Right. Last year you went up 10%, and you're telling me next year you're going to cut other areas, 5,
there's
8%.
No way. And I got news for you too. I know your argument is solid in the emotional aspect, but they're not going to they're not going to refuse to give them pay raises because the union won't accept it.
Yeah.
And which ultimately means that whether they raise the levy for the building, or they raise the levy for wages, the taxes are going up no matter what. Oh, yeah. No matter what. Because they will not there again, if they're building the new building to attract allegedly better cops, any cop that says I won't work for you because your building is crap is not a good cop, by the way. I just want that out there. He's very self-centered and is more likely to cause the city problems. But if they're doing it because they want to attract more and better, then they're going to have to pay more on top of having a better building, because nobody's going to come in and go, how much are you paying? And just for everybody to understand this as well, Minnesota, there's no such thing as a poor cop. Minnesota cops make on average, not in every department, not in every sheriff's office, but on average, law enforcement in Minnesota, one cop earns twice the median income of the community he or she works in. period. So even there, cops are not poorly paid in Minnesota. So all of this is just there's something deeper going on here than what meets the eye. I hope you could keep people aware. We've got Chris Daniels is right. There's a lot of tort. There's a lot of tort that could be looked at in this situation, especially with the malfeasance of.
Well,
I'm sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
What's interesting with the EDA is the one guy that came and spoke at the meeting, his wife is a police officer, is on the EDA. That's going to be selling bonds. So I don't know if he's going to abstain. Yeah, we'll see. But so and another thing I want to talk about is the petition that we talked about earlier. So this is like currently what really kind of gets to me, and I'm not going to take it to court because they did approve my petition. I got way more signatures than I needed because I knew that they would try to throw it out. So, it's 10
which
lines.
Goes to Chip's claim about you being the best petition person.
So, well, I know in 1 hour, because for 1 hour I did want to see how many I would get. I got 30 signatures in an hour. That was my sign rate right before we had like an event in Memorial Park. We did like a signing event. People could come down. So I just walked around the neighborhood there and I had 30 signatures for 1 hour work, that's probably one of my better numbers. So the petition is 10 lines. You have 10 people can sign it per form. And the state is supposed to affirm signatures, right? In my understanding, it's eligible voters. If you're 18, you live in city limits, you're not a felon, I think. I can't remember. Maybe they can vote now. You can sign it. That's all it needs to be. The city said, no. You have to be a registered voter.
No.
Where does it say that? And then the response from the city was, we approved your petition and that's what we were required to do. So I was like, okay. So what you can do is you can take the voter registry and you can bounce it off of the list and you can say, okay, first name, that's registered, check. Second name, good, check. Third name, good, check. Fourth name, not on there. Okay, well, we got to leave that one. We're not going to disqualify it, but I can't confirm that it's good, right? And they can go through and check until they get 255 or 244. And then they say, okay, you made it. You got 244. Congratulations.
And then they don't have to submit the rest of the names.
And then we don't have to figure out the other names, like maybe they're good, but they're not on the registry. So they can use the registry to confirm names, right? What New Prague did is the opposite. So they went through and they're like, okay, first name, it's on the registry. All right, skip that. Next name, they're not on the registry. Disqualified. Next name, disqualified. This name, the birthday is wrong. Disqualified. And they had names that they would say, couldn't read the name, birthday wrong. Well, if you can't read the name, how do you know the birthday's wrong? Or they would have names that like, well, I couldn't read the address, even though if you look, the people are two people in a row have the same last name. They're a year apart. And like, you can read the address above it and see like, that's 2nd Street, not 3rd Street. Like everything's almost exactly the same, but they say like, I can't read it. Even though you can like clearly see from the signature above it. Like, okay, maybe you couldn't read it.
I love your positivity that you're over here going, I don't believe, like, bro.
So it gets better. So then
all is set up.
Mind you, the teachers really, really like to sign this, right? And they like to vote too. So they're in the registry and they know they are. And I had I forget what the guy's name was. Let's say it was Tim. And he's like, no, I'm definitely registered. They threw his name out and said not in registry, right? Well, his name in the registry, I believe, is Timothy. And he wrote Tim on the petition.
So they hung it on that technicality.
And then I had other people that had hyphenated last names, Johnson Smith or whatever, and they just wrote Johnson. And so the best one, here's the best one. I had 10 lines and an 11th person signed. So we had 11 signatures. Every single signature they threw out. Signature invalidated, too many signatures on petition. They threw out a whole page of 10 because an 11th person signed it.
So you would have had even more than you had.
They
for
threw out
petitioning.
25% of my signatures was disqualified, which is the opposite of like normally they can qualify signatures, and they could have came to me and said, hey, we qualified 244. Okay. So I'm like, hey, I got questions about this, and they refused to answer. And then I asked, okay, can I have a copy?
And you're not present when they're doing the qualification
No.
either.
And I said, can I have a copy of the voter registry that you used for the petition? And the city attorney came back and said that the document is restricted. I can't see it.
What?
Yeah.
How is a document like voter registration restricted?
So I called the Secretary of State. I'm waiting for their feedback. I can get a voter registry list from the Secretary of State, but I want the one the city used because maybe
They have to
claim,
provide
right,
that.
it flows downhill. The Secretary of State gives it to the county gives it to the city. And that's what happened in this case. So just to be safe, I want the source of truth. I want it from the city. What one did you use for my petition? So there's no like claim, like I get it from the Secretary of State, and then a year later you guys go, oh, we happen to have some 1990 list, or whatever it may be. But yeah, so right now
that's asinine. They're refusing to give it over. How do they even claim that's restricted?
City attorney said
your vote is private. I want people to understand your vote is private. No one has a right to know how you vote. No one. But the fact that you're required to register to vote, to be able to vote, that is not private. You being present at the polling place is not private. Only your vote is private. That's it. That's it, and that's all.
They're hanging it on this one statute that says the master list is private. But from talking to the Secretary of State, they're saying that the city doesn't have a master list that has full birthday. So I was just asking, I don't want, if it is, you have the master list. I don't care about that. You're supposed to redact information that is private. So give me the document, redact any private information, but I need to see the name, the address, and the year, just the year, not full birthday, just the year they were born. I just need those three things. And those are not private. And so, so now I'm kind of working through that, but I'm not going to take it to court because I wasn't wronged, right? They approved it. So I want it for the future. I want it for another petition and they
you don't have standing if you don't have standing if they approve the petition.
Right.
But there's
in the future,
still
what if I do?
Wow.
What if I need to do a 20% petition for some reason?
Right.
Do I have to get 1,500 signatures in a New Prague? That's doable. I could do it, but it's a lot harder.
So Go ahead.
They threw out 25% of my votes. That's a huge number compared to if Libertarian Party has done ones, and it's like 5 to 10%, I think, that maybe get tossed out. Not 25. So
KD asked, who's the construction company? And I think that's a really valid question. Is like, who is the construction company, and what is their connection to the EDA? What is their connection? Do they have family members on the EDA? Do they have family members that work for the city? Do they have family members that are on the city council? These are all like, this is, and it's probably more than, I don't want to keep you much longer. We're already 15 minutes over what we said we wanted to go. This is definitely going to be more than a one-parter. Because now you got me all, I knew there was stuff going on, but man, you got me all fired up now.
So Wold WOLD Construction is the architect firm, and the city keeps bringing up like, oh, well, we hired a third party to like look at our buildings and do a facility study, and they came to the conclusion that we need to build a $12 million facility. Yeah, Wold Construction, the company that's the architect, and the more money that you spend, they make more money.
Yeah, they get their.
What do you think they're going to say? Man. And coincidentally, that's the same company that's working for the school, because the school was going to do 2 tax levies. They were going to do one operating and one to do facilities improvements, which was by Wold. And the school, I think personally, speculation, that they saw what was going on with the city, and they said, okay, people right now are not happy with Wold Construction, and then Wold Construction is the one that's going to do our facility improvements. let's just not do that. So they decided to not do the facilities one, and they're just going to do the operating levy for the school.
Yeah, that there would have been some backlash on that for sure. Yeah. Yeah, we just had our own down here with our school district. They did a 2-part referendum in November. If you approve part 1, then you have to, do you want part 2 implemented, right?
Yep.
And everybody, not everybody, but they got the first part of their referendum, but they didn't get their second part. So they got all sneaky and announced they were going to do a special election just for the second part in May.
Oh man, yeah, you know who's going to show up for that?
And they tried every which way to just like beat this into people's minds that you hate the kids if you don't support this the second part of this referendum, and then it's going to cost you more money because we're going to have to do it anyway in the future, so you might as well do it now while it's cheaper. And they still lost, and man, it about tore the town apart.
New Prague's last school levy lost by like, it was like 50 votes or something like that out of like hundreds or thousands. I think
I'm surprised you didn't have like a 1.5 year long argument over dimpled Chad and pregnant Chad and hanging Chad. And
but here's what's interesting though, is the school is talking about their tax levy now, right? And we're in August, right? People are still bringing up the fact that they did a tax abatement, and it's like, hey, you guys are just giving out or not collecting essentially money for this building that had a foundation dug. This unit apartment complex already dug the foundation. And it's like, you guys have enough money. Now, when you think about it, their budget is like $50 million. It was $150,000 tax abatement. For them, pennies, right? But you know what matters? The fact they did it. Like that's what people are like, you guys get no value. Why did you do it? Why?
Yeah, but worse is that just didn't go away, because that property being valued at $150,000 tax levy, they can't, that doesn't just go away. That money, that valuation is on the books somewhere, which means they have to make that up somehow, which means everybody else's taxes go up. That's what I tell people all the time. They're like,
so theirs was a 15 year. So and it's tiered, and so it'll eventually go back to normal, but that's a deficit. You don't make it up. Like that's, people think
there's
like
no making it up.
Like, oh, they then will make no. You pay taxes for what's supposed to be equal. It's not like you pay tax as a profit, right? So it's like you're at a deficit for a whole bunch of time that other taxpayers have to cover. But
exactly.
People are remembering it. That was many, many months ago, and they're remembering it. But we now have a 165 unit apartment complex that probably is going to come up here in a couple of months that I think is going to get built regardless of the tax abatement. But and now New Prague's the high density housing.
Well, you're going to have to keep me abridged of how this goes. Especially, I really am really interested in you getting to the bottom of this whole claim that you're not entitled to see, because they do not have the master list. The master list is almost exclusively at the Secretary of State's office. There's no way that the city has it. So they're playing fast and loose. Yeah. Be interesting to show up there with the camera sometime.
I make every meeting. So,
I mean, actually just to the, to go and, show up and say, hey, I'm here for.
Oh yeah. It was funny when Care 11 and all those channels were there and doing interviews with people, and then people were like thinking that I went out. No, I never went out to any of those media companies. They all contacted me. Star Tribune, they all contacted me because they were claiming like I'm running around trying to get all this media attention. It's like, no, I just care about New Prague. And if other areas want to join.
So if they did, who cares? If you did, who cares? That's like problem with that.
It shows you maybe something isn't right.
Would you be upset if I was supporting the police building project and was trying to get the media involved? No, you'd be all for that. That's like the city councils and stuff. That's like, there will be no criticism of any council member. What?
Or public officials.
Or any public official. official. But then I can come in and go, I just want to thank council member so-and-so for the wonderful job that they've been doing for the last 15 years. And I've personally
Yeah.
seen my property taxes go down. They'll take that accolade. They'll love that.
Yeah.
But boy, don't say anything critical.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, we're way over time, and it's
All right.
evening for both of us. So I will, I'll stay in touch with you. I appreciate your time and coming on for an episode of Libertarian Lowdown. Please keep me abreast of how this is going.
Sure.
Obviously, we know we're not going to be able to actually fully shut down the project, but it sure would be interesting to just dig into this more and just see how much more, it's my opinion, nefarious it really is. So do you have any social media where you talk about this stuff, or where you like to tell people about what's going on?
Recently I just do it in the local pages and on my Facebook, Brian Paulson. It's the Tenement Square is kind of my logo, kind of fitting. I think I set that, I don't know, like 6 years ago, but
It's very fitting.
very, very fitting. But yeah, I'll have to start posting it in more areas and try to share it around. But yeah, I'm gonna keep going at it, and I'm not stopping. I'm gonna keep showing up day after day.
Oh, trust me, you'll get to the point where they'll be like, "Oh crap, he's here again." Like, I
think
get
we're
that.
right there.
I was getting that, and I can't even make every one of my city council meetings, and I'd walk in and there was a council member that would be like, "Oh shit."
I'm 10-minute walk away. I can walk to my council meeting. I'm right there.
I'm less than 10 minutes. I'm like
Yeah.
literally 2 minutes down the street. I just can't get
Perfect.
off work in time to be able to make the 6 o'clock meeting most of the time. So
Yeah.
they were really upset when I showed up after their. I went in to record my own voting process on November 5th, which is perfectly legal in the state of
Yeah.
Minnesota. And they tried to kick me out. The two chief election judges tried to kick me out and forbid me. And then they called the local deputies on me to try and remove me.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so I went to the next city council meeting and I was like, "Oh, you people got some splaining to do. I am not happy."
Tangen actually was talking about that, and he like was pulling the statutes up and before he went to go to vote. And I don't remember the nuances of it, but yeah, there was some like weird thing, but there also is another thing that they don't understand it.
They flat out said it is technically not illegal for you to record or take pictures while you're voting. It's only illegal for you to show your completed ballot. And I think that has something to do with influence peddling as far as
I think you can. I think it was intended to not be pressured by someone.
Mm-hmm.
So they made the law that you can't.
It's electioneering. They're trying to avoid electioneering is what they're trying to do.
But Chip's point was that if you do it publicly, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so if you share it publicly to everybody, then it's legal. You can't share it to a person.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should talk to Chip about that sometime.
Oh, Chip saw my story because I went live.
Oh,
like I went live. I was like, I was just recording it first. I'll send you the link. It's
all right.
like, and then after they investigated me, bro. The sheriff's office investigated me and turned their findings over to the city attorney. And she was like, "Well, I'm not going to press charges because he behaved himself after the cops showed up." I'm like,
"Hey, it sounds like you're doing a great job."
Like, behaved myself? I was so civil. It was like the audio, and I'll send you the links. The audio has them joking about assaulting me.
Yeah.
One of the election judges is like, "Well, it's a good thing you got involved because I would have punched him."
Yeah.
What?
And I thought that with me and the city stuff, you know what? Some people go aggressive, and I know that there's videos of people being aggressive and yelling, and and I try to be very civil, and don't let the attacks from other people in the community, don't let it get to you, because when you start making waves, you'll get attacked.
Yeah, I was like I said, I walk in now, and now they're used to it.
Yeah.
But before they were like, "Oh no, not now what?" Like the very first meeting I went to and I spoke to them, I'm like, "Hey, I just want to thank you guys for being here and having this, set up for public, comments." And I always try to start off with a positive, and then if I have something I want to critique, I'll say it, and then I'll end on it on a positive. And it's still like people are like, "Oh, he's here again." So, hey, you get out of here. I'll close this up.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Folks, this is why act localism is so important. Jeb Common, you're what a pointless conversation. Well, I appreciate your feedback, and it is duly noted. And not every conversation is for every person. So if you think it's pointless, then thanks for tuning in long enough to determine that it was pointless. No skin off my nose. Go find something that isn't pointless, whatever that might be in your case. But folks, get involved, stay active. These things are really important, and it's time for us to take our communities back. If we're not willing to be involved and you just show up on election day to vote for your buddy because your buddy and you get along really well, and you're not asking questions about whether or not your buddy actually has what's best for the community at heart, then I don't know what to tell you. It's if we're losing the republic, it's because you don't care enough about getting involved. Hey, Roadhog, I know vertical streams are rough for a lot of people, but they push out into a vertical stream feed and into a shorts feed, and it helps with views, and it gets the story out, and it attracts people, especially based on topics. So I appreciate that feedback. But we're trying it this way when we're doing live streams for a while. So get involved, people. Stay involved. Pay attention to what's going on, because if you're not paying attention, no one else is paying attention. And if no one else is paying attention, the people who are supposed to be making decisions, we're going to do whatever's best for their personal pocketbook and for their time. And it's, how do I want to say this? It's time that people stopped trusting politicians or, elected and appointed public servants. Nobody should get blind trust anymore, because I really don't believe that any of them have the best at heart in mind when they take those positions. There's a very small handful, the Massies, and then I have a local guy here that I know really does give a darn about it. So stay involved, if you will. Roadhog, what do you say? It's just hard to chat. That's all I'm saying. Oh, well, that I can see, because it's got a smaller section for viewing on the vertical. That I understand. But as the sign says, my dear friend Monica made it for me. Fight for your liberty. It is yours. Fight for your freedom. It belongs to you. And until next time, sic semper tyrannis.
We are going for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at